Hi ladies and gentlemen, we're in our fourth section in our sequencing unit. Today we're going to just review everything about arithmetic and geometric sequences since you're going to have a test coming up on that soon. Our essential question is, how do I write recursive and explicit formulas for both arithmetic and geometric sequence? So we're just reviewing what we've learned in the last two lessons. So we're just going to really quickly, we're going to go over each of them. So for an arithmetic sequence, we have what's called a common difference, and I've just abbreviated that CD, common difference. Other people might call it something else, but for this purpose right now, we're just going to call it CD for common difference. We have a recursive equation, right? Our recursive equation says to get my next term, f of n, I take my previous term, f of n minus 1, and I add or subtract. So it should probably say add or subtract here, so let's just put that in there for you. My common difference, because I can have a negative common difference, remember. And then I want to say f of 1 equals my SP, and SP in this case, so you know, is my starting, I just abbreviated it, starting point. Okay, so SP is my starting point. So that's the first term in my sequence. Okay, great. And then we have an explicit equation which says f of x, I kind of changed my variable, it's okay, f of x equals mx plus b, right? Where m is my common difference and b is the 0th term. Remember, I have to go back from my first term. I have to go back one and find that 0th term. Okay, and then we have our second type of sequence, which is, that is not a highlighter, which is geometric sequence. And we have three things about that also that we're going to talk about. The first time, instead of a common difference, we have a common ratio, so we're just going to change our initials to CR. Pretty easy, yeah? We have a recursive equation again. My recursive equation says I take my, to find my next term, f of n, I take my previous term, f of n minus 1, and I multiply by my common ratio. And then again, I have to have my starting point, so f of 1 equals whatever the first term in my sequence is. And then of course we have an explicit equation which says f of x equals a times b to the x power, where b is my common ratio and a is the 0th term. Okay, so let's talk about how these notes are going to work. I'm going to slide this up just a little bit. As you can see, for each problem there's for each set of directions, there's two problems for you to do. Well, I'm going to do one, and the other you're going to do in the Nearpod, or put your answers in there later on in the little quiz section. What you can do is, if you want, after I do the first problem, since I have them both on here, you can pause the video and do the second problem. That way you can rewind and look if you're having any difficulties with how to do that second problem. So that's what I would do. I will say you go ahead and pause now and work on problem B or whatever throughout the video. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. You can watch the whole thing and then do the problems at the end. But that's how this is going to kind of work for this one, just a little different. So it says find the common difference. Well, how do I find the common difference? I find the difference between here and here, here and here, and here and here. So what I do is I take this term and I subtract that term. So I'm going to take negative 171 and I'm going to subtract 29. Well, what do I get? Negative 200. So the difference between there is negative 200. And then I need to make sure it's the same, so I'm going to take this term and subtract that term. So I'm going to take my third term and subtract my second term. And so I get negative 371 minus a negative 171, and I can just put that in my calculator, and I should get negative 200. And if you look, the difference between 171 and 371 is 200. And the same for the next one, negative 200. So what's my common difference? Is negative 200. Okay, awesome. So now if you want, you can go ahead and pause the video and do problem B. That's the problem that you will have to do in the Nearpod when we're done with this video. Okay. The next one says find the next 3 terms in the given sequence. Well, in order to do that, I need to know what my common ratio or difference is. So let's look. What's my difference here, here, and here? Well, to get from, let's see, I've got negative 24 minus a negative 17, and that gives me negative 7. And then I've got negative 31 minus a negative 24, which is also negative 7. And the difference between 31 and 38 is 7. So my common ratio is negative 7. So in my calculator, I'm going to do negative 38 minus 7. And that should give me negative 45. And then I'm going to subtract 7 again, and I should get negative 52. And if I subtract 7 again, I should get negative 59. ... Okay? And that's how I do it. That's it. So go ahead and do problem D. Go ahead and pause the video now. Do the problem and then start the video up again when you're done. Okay? So now we're going to go to problem E. Okay. Let me slide this up a little bit. And problem E says, find the term named in the problem. Well, the term named in my problem is A of 21. A sub 21. So that's the term I want to find. So for me, the easiest way, now I could do a table. I know I have the first 4 terms, and I could just keep going and make a table until I have 21 terms. That's a lot of work. I could do it that way. That's fine. Or what I could do is write an equation and then substitute it in. So I think I'm going to try and do that. So the difference between 1 and negative 99 would be negative 100. And the difference between negative 100 and negative 199 is negative 100. And the difference here is negative 100. And if I go to my 0th term, the one before that, if I'm subtracting 100 and I got 1, that means I would be subtracting from 101. Okay, let me write that just a little bit better. 101. Not that much better. Okay, so then I could say, well, how do I get my term? Well, I'm going to say f of x is going to equal my common ratio, which is 100, plus 101. So if I plug 1 in there, 1 in for x, 100, negative 100 times x is negative 100. My first term in, so my first term would be x is 1. My second term would be x, if I plugged in x is 2, then I would expect to get negative 99. Okay, plus 100. So negative 100 times 1 is negative 100, plus 101 is 1. So my first term should be 1. And it is. So now I want to find, f of 21. Sorry, I'm not talking very clearly tonight. Negative 100 times 21 plus 101. So now I'm just going to put that into my calculator. Make sure you put the negative sign in for the 100. Negative 100 times 21 plus 101 should be negative 1999. Okay, and that's it. So now you're going to go ahead and pause the video if I were you and do problem number F. Okay, and when you're done, go ahead and start the video again. Okay, guys, so the next problem, or problem G, says find the explicit formula of the given sequence. And I'm going to say, I just want to say this, the explicit formula, we found the explicit formula to do this. So if we found it for that one, it should be pretty easy, right? So let's try this. What's the difference between 38 and 29? What do I do to get from 38 to 29 and 29 to 20 and 20 to 11? Well, it looks like I'm subtracting 9. If you need to know how to do it, I'll go on my calculator and do 29 minus 38. 29 minus 38, right? And that should give me negative 9. And you can test it for all 3 of them in your calculator. If you're not sure, I would suggest you do that. And then I also need to find the 0th term. I need to find out, what do I subtract 9 from to get 38? Well, I think that's going to be 47. So I know my 0th term, and I know my common difference. So I should be able to say f of x is going to equal negative 9x plus 47. Okay? You could use n. F of n equals negative 9n plus 47. Either way, good job. Go ahead and pause the video and do the do h, and when you come back, we'll do I. We'll see in just a second. Okay, and the last thing it wants us to do for arithmetic is find the recursive formula of the given sequence. So to find the recursive formula, I do need to know what my common difference is. You're doing that a lot, right? Finding common differences. So how do I get from negative 10 to 20, and 20 to 50, and 50 to 80? Add 30. That is right. Good job. So I'm adding 30 every time. So how do I write this out? Well, to get to my next term, f of n, I take my previous term, f of n minus 1. I add 30. And then I say f of 1, my first term, equals negative 10. And that's it. Done. Okay? So you guys go ahead and do J and pause. You can pause, well, you can stop the video because we're going to go ahead and in this section of the video, and we'll come back for the geometric section in just a moment. So go ahead and do J. You're going to answer problems B, D, F, H, and J before we go into the next video. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks, guys. Bye.